Thank you, Julia. Please take it away.
Hi, I am Julia Renfro with ACPE, the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education, and ACPE sponsors the AKCIS 360. That's our newest version. That's the Alaska Career Information System. CIS is over 50 years old. It's used in a number of states as a full unit, and some states use just some components of CIS. And here in Alaska, we do use the entire suite, everything that is offered in the Alaska Career Information System. We do focus on the Alaska information, but we do have the national information as we go through and look at each of these pieces as well. And as we go, Dominica will be helping out with the chat, and we will be able to get your questions answered as we go through as well. So here we see our student and our teacher. Now, AKCIS is great for students if they're working independently, but it works so much better when we have a trusted adult working alongside that student, somebody who's invested in what's going on with that student, that adult job seeker, whatever stage they might be in. But in the AKCIS, we are making sure that we are discovering more about our students. They're exploring the careers and their educational opportunities that meet their goals. They're preparing for their job search, and they can look at any of our local wage information and Outlook, and they are seeking jobs and employment that are right for them. But remember, when we are looking at AKCIS, we are thinking of three questions. Who am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there? And those answer the pieces that create a personal learning and career plan. The site types that we have available include the junior, AKCIS junior site type. This is for our students 8th grade and under. And they can take self-surveys. There's a limited number of self-surveys for them. There's 6 for them. They're learning about their community. They're preparing activities through their grade appropriate career plans. They also are looking at career clusters and careers and deciding what kind of classes, what kind of courses would be beneficial to me when I get into high school. What kinds of things can I ask about? Then that moves up into the high school version. So that's going to be our 9th through 12th graders. They're going to continue on and actually be able to track the programs of study and the schools and scholarships that are going to help them get there. So they're going to get more into that how do I get there stage. We have a post-secondary version that's going to be for any of our participants who are using AKCIS at the adult education level, or they're at a training facility, anything after high school. And then we have a separate version, which is the Alaska Workforce, or the Alaska Workforce version, which is going to be for our job centers. It's going to be for our community organizations, Native organizations, going to help them match those employment needs to their skills and their backgrounds. And they might want to reinvent themselves. They might be looking for a promotion. All of that is going to add together. None of these versions is one and done. If a student starts at junior, it's going to keep growing up with them through the adult workforce version. And if they start at adult workforce, that's fine too. We do create a very holistic approach to personal learning and career plans. And so they're always going to get what they need in each version that they move through the system in. So we do have a reinvention this year that you have probably already seen when you went to log into akcis.org. And one of those big pieces is to put the career plans right front and center for the student and the user. So on the personal learning and career plans, their list of activities for their career plan comes up automatically. In the adult version, yes, they're using the Discover, Explore, Prepare, and Seek that you see on the right-hand side of the screen, but those same concepts are happening in the younger versions as well. If a school district is using Clever for single sign-on, or if a student has their graduation year included in their personal portfolio in AKCIS, the career plan for their particular grade will come up automatically for them. Some school districts have chosen to modify the list because maybe it's part of a dedicated course in their district. Some schools have changed the list for a dedicated course in their school. And so that is something that we're able to offer with this new version of AKCIS. In previous versions, if you remember the checklist, they were several clicks away for the student. But now when they enter, they automatically come to their personal learning and career plan. And in this particular case, we're looking at the 11th grade career plan. It lets us know how many activities are there. It lets us know which activities are completed, which ones have started. So they haven't quite met the metric yet to say it's a completed activity, and which activities they still have to work on. That continue button automatically will take them to the next activity that they have not completed. Those using AKCIS in a multi-grade classroom can also have students navigate. You can see those tile cards at the bottom of the screen. They can navigate to any of the career plans listed under their school, and the teacher or counselor can have those students then work through the same activity together. My dashboard is the next thing that comes up across the top for the students. And on my dashboard, they can see everything that's been their favorites, everything that they've bookmarked, from careers and career clusters to military careers, schools, programs of study, and scholarships. They would be hyperlinked on that page, make it very easy for the student to navigate straight to that part of the system when they log in without taking through all the steps. The self-survey results also come up on my dashboard, and here we have a snippet of a student's page where they have, at the high school version, adult, and the post-secondary versions, they have 9 self-surveys. Like I said, in junior, they have 6 self-surveys. And this would be a display of the last set of results that each student has, or if that student has on that particular self-survey. There's little pencils in the corners of those cards, and students can get back to any results they've saved in the past, and they could restore that answer set for continued work going forward. The reports up across the top of my dashboard allows for the students to be that self-advocate who is turning over reports to you. They are telling you, these are my favorites. These are my self-survey results. This is how far I've gotten in my career plan activities. And they're sharing that with the teacher, the counselor, the caseworker, whomever it might be, as we create self-advocates who know what they want to ask for, and they're learning who to ask for and how to ask for that. So they're bringing it to you. A newer piece that's on my dashboard is also the best career matches. And so based on self-survey results and things that have been favorited for that student, that will show up to 10 best career matches for that particular student. So they can also quick navigate to those pieces. The next piece is the self-surveys. While in the career plans, all of the navigation is built into the activities, students can navigate across the top of the bar, like I'm pointing here with self-surveys. And this is a list of the self-surveys that we can find in the high school, post-secondary, and adult workforce versions of AKCIS. The new CCI Quick Pick is a way to add a usage for your students who need a little bit more assistance under accessibility. So it will read the instructions and read the statements to the user. It also has a picture of the activity. So if you're familiar with the career cluster inventory, the CCI Quick Pick starts also with go fishing. And so it would read go fishing to the student, and there would be a picture of someone fishing on that screen. But each of these self-surveys comes up to the user from a different angle. We never take just one self-survey. None of our users are single-sided. They're multifaceted, and we need to come from different areas to get a more well-rounded picture of that user. The reality check, still a strong staple in AKCIS, and that provides that budgeting self-survey where the user can go through and see if they're a student who has not maybe started paying their own bills yet. They start looking at what are those monthly expenses I would have after I finish my post-secondary education and training. If it's an adult user, they already know what bills they have, and they can come in and add those bills in. What are those monthly expenses? And then start to see, based on how long they expect to go to school and that desired lifestyle they want to have, what kind of career clusters or careers are matching up for them in the location of the state. So we do include 17 hubs in the state of Alaska in the reality check, trying to get close to everyone's neck of the woods. On the career clusters page, or excuse me, on the careers page, we can favorite. That's what the arrow is pointing at here. But information that we can see on the careers pages, we can get a good job description, the work setting. We can get the local information for wages and employment and outlook. The wages are updated every year, both locally and nationally. And the employment and outlook is updated every 2 years, and it's a 10-year forecast. So right now in AKCIS, we've got the 2022 to 2032 employment and outlook information. The next time that will be updated is in November of 2024. And we do that in partnership with the Department of Labor here in Alaska. They can also, when they're looking at the careers pages, there are over 650 careers, which represents over 95% of the US labor market. They can look at education and training that's going to prepare them for that, including pathways. And sometimes that's when our user really starts to narrow things down and they're like, well, I thought I wanted to go this direction, but now that now I see the name of this is getting closer to what I want. So that exploration really helps them hone in on what they're looking for. On the personal qualities page, the user can see their results for the interest profiler and the results of people who are already working in that file or in that field so that they can compare those to each other. And they can see their results in the work importance locator and how people working in that field are scoring on the work importance locator again. So instead of going back several pages to get to their self-survey results and seeing, was this career on my list? We're bringing those results right into their exploration as they move through the system. They can also look at related careers because sometimes they might have called it one thing, but there might be a posting or there might be something that calls it slightly different so they can see what those names would be. And in the military careers, it's really nice that they can come back and cross-reference that to what the civilian counterparts would say. So if we had a user who was talking to a recruiter, I've been a military dependent my entire life. Speaking military is almost like speaking another language, and it gets confusing. Sometimes families get scared to think about military options. When the students talk to the recruiter, the student can come home, talk to the families, and they can bring up AKCIS and they can look up those careers in AKCIS for military and see what would that civilian life look like later after they finish an enlistment or they retire and move back into civilian world. They can see which branches offer that career and what would the environment be like and what are some related careers. It's also helpful when a student's trying to pick their specialty when they go into the military so that they can make that determination, things that have matched up with their skills and their background and things that they're interested in, what they want to learn and what they want to work in going forward. On the education tab, we can do several things, but right here you see a picture of us drilled down to an Alaskan school. This is Alaska Pacific University's profile page, and the arrow's pointing to the school list, so the student can or user can always get back to the school list very easily. But each of our schools and training facilities in the state of Alaska, there's about 100 of the 5,000 schools that are added in AKCIS. 100 of them are Alaska. And each of those schools can have a custom profile picture like the one we see for APU here. And in the bottom left-hand corner of that picture, there is a little movie film snippet icon there. And each of those schools and training facilities can also have their own virtual tour of their facility included. And that's really a neat option for our students in Alaska because it does take so long. It does take quite a bit of money in order to go out and check out different schools. And this way we could do virtual tours with students, say after school or during a class. Students can look at them on their own before deciding, if there was a school that they wanted to go out and check out in person. Also on the education tab in AKCIS, we've got the programs of study. And so when a student does choose a career, that's going to lead them into programs of study, and programs of study help them to determine then which schools offer those programs of study and narrow down what does that coursework look like? What will I be spending my time in my post-secondary training? What would I be doing during that time? They also can check out which scholarships apply to that program of study or to that school. And in the list of scholarships, there are about 3,000 scholarships, and about 800 of those are Alaska specific. So lots of great information coming in under the education tab. Wherever possible, we have included a visual representation of the information instead of those long tables with numbers that look just like charts. We've tried to separate the information out. Maybe you've noticed as we've moved through, we've had the different colored tiles, the different color breakouts and accordions as we've moved through, and we've had the pie charts and the graphs as well as we've moved through our presentation so far. We also, on the education tab, are able to include Alaska-specific information around apprenticeships. So maybe it's Alaska Workforce, you might be hearing from them in upcoming sessions, might be Alaska Alaska AHEC. They have different intensive, that kind of stuff, helping counselors and teachers find out where are those resources, where are those connections that we can bring that back in. Alaska Safety Alliance also has some great information about Alaska's high priority occupations. Those are also shared on our education page, as well as information about our FAFSA completion program at ACPE and Alaska ACPE financial aid information, including the Alaska Performance Scholarship, Alaska Education Grant, and our Alaska student loans. On the employment tab, there's several things that we can do here. One of the ones that is used most often is going to be that resume builder. Anything a user completed in a resume in the past has been moved over into this new version. They have not lost anything. They are here. And they can warehouse their qualifications, their education, skills, experience, any certifications they have, special clubs that they've belonged to, student government, any of those kinds of things as well. Military experience, post-secondary as well. And when they can then choose which items they want to include when they build that resume, and then it can export that out into either a Word document that they can manipulate and be ready to send out for employment, for scholarships, for school applications, or they can send it in a PDF format to the teacher or counselor so they can do some review that way as well. There's a cover letter builder now in AKCIS. We had that ability in the previous version, but it was kind of hidden. We've brought it right out and put it right next to the resumes now. And there are Alaska-specific employment systems listed to include AlaskaNativeHire.com, which comes to us from CITC, Alaska Job Finder, Workplace Alaska. We'll be adding the Alaska employment website in the coming weeks. And the U.S. National Labor Exchange is not only on the employment page, but each of the careers pages has a link to the U.S. National Labor Exchange as well. Next, we have the course planner, and every student 6th through 12th grade who's in a public school has access to the course planner in their AKCIS portfolio. Comes up automatically, and I've included the Alaska Performance Scholarship requirements under math and science and social studies and language in as 2 pathways with a very cursory list of courses for that student to keep track towards the Alaska Performance Scholarship. But I mentioned the course planner to you to highlight that, but more to tell you that each district can have their own course list added into AKCIS. You see in this description in the middle, this page in the middle, that Sitka School District has got their courses listed into AKCIS already, so I could always show you a demo of that later. But students could then pick the specific school within that district that may be offering a course. They can also have specific pathways. So maybe you've got some career and technical education pathways. Maybe you want to put your school district's graduation pathways in there for the students to work towards. So we can have courses, pathways, and courses and pathways added. Students can then make choices based on those pathways and also select courses based on their grade or their subjects where those courses were recommended. They can keep track of what they've planned, what they've completed, and what they've completed in pathways. And if you've noticed in some of the post-secondary systems that you might have used in the past, where you can change pathways to see how close you are to finishing that particular pathway. The same thing can be done here in the course planner in AKCIS now. So very robust system, very nice way for students and those planning going forward to kind of see, oh wow, I got that, I'm that close. I just got to keep going. I can keep going, and I will have this finished up. That is AKCIS. That is probably the tightest nutshell I have ever put this together in. You got my contact information there, but I'm ready for any questions you might have. You might not have been thinking Julia's going to get done that quickly and be ready for questions, but I do. I can show you. Let me stop sharing my screen there and bring up a page that's going to help out with our new website while you think of any questions that you might have, and put those in the chat, and Dominica can let me know about those. And so this is, Dominica, if you could verify for me, we're looking at my web page. Thank you. So this is the new AKCIS web page. And our students can log in here. Our adult users can log in here in the blue login box. Students can log in with the Clever button. So there are a little more than half of our school districts in Alaska are using Clever for single sign-on. If they're ever asked for a username and password, those students should use their school district issued computer username and password in order to get in to their AKCIS portfolio. Other students, certain districts are still using the older method of creating usernames and passwords, and that's what the students would use to get in. If an adult job seeker is not attached to any particular location, they can log in with the zip code feature. But I am the only person in the state of Alaska who can see any portfolio in the zip code feature. So if you think a student accidentally got their portfolio created under there, or they were saving information under there, just write a short email to me. I'll put my contact information back up on the screen in just a moment. But just write a short email to me and tell me the student's first and last name, and I can get that out to you. Right here on the students page, we have these audiences. And so on the students page, we can see the brand new quick starts, the 360 quick starts. These are the screenshots numbered with the worded instructions next to them. I include them on the outside. I'm not logged in at the moment, so that you could include these in any Canvas assignment. You can include these in any Google Classroom assignment or Apple Classroom assignment as a help to direct the student through that work. If I go back to the main page and I click on the parents audience, I can come in here, and we can direct, if you've got some information that you want to share with parents, and some wording that you would want to put around that. Parents, if they have a parent account, would use this light blue login box. And here's that parent guide that we've come to know and love, to share on our counselor web pages, to send home with students, to email out to parents, that explains what is a personal learning and career plan and why should the family member get involved. What are some of those important dates for especially for our seniors? What's some of that alphabet soup that we have going on? We have so many acronyms. And then what are some things we should be doing 7th through 9th grade, 10th and 11th grade, and then for our seniors, our 12th grade. What are some of those things to do? These activities aren't all in AKCIS necessarily, but they are available in our Alaska systems. That was on the parent page. When I come back and I come down to the administrators page, this is where anyone with a staff account is going to want to log in this red login box. So if you have a district account, an admin account, or a staff account, you're going to use the red login box in order to access the backside of the system and see how your students have been doing. The quick starts are still here to help you through those typical things that you would be doing in the backside of the system. But a staff account and an admin account can also modify that career plan. I can assist you with that, or you can do that on your own as well. Edit your course planners as you go through. That can all happen in there as well. Here are some training videos right down here that are going to help you with that backside of AKCIS. And then we have our job seekers page, which is going to take us back to those 360 quick starts again. And what do job seekers need to know? Why would they get attached to a job center or an affiliated agency instead of just using the zip code? If you do have somebody who comes to work under your caseload and you think they might have a portfolio somewhere, you can always contact me and I can find that portfolio and move it over to your location for you. Also on our main page, if you haven't renewed yet, this is where the activation and fee waiver agreement is. Um, more than half the state has already renewed, and so it is time for that. So I have good contact information. But I wanted to bring you here to the upcoming training. I don't have highlights right this very second on upcoming training, but I did want to show you to dive more into what I talked about. Um, to dive more about what I talked about during this session and to get into more of the nitty gritty, there is an on-demand training section on our AKCIS page. And these are recordings that have been made. This is the overview, a little bit longer than what I did for this session. Customizing PLCPs, this is going to be customizing those career plans. So if you are thinking that you want a specific career plan, not just the ones that I have put out suggested from my desk for each of the grade levels and education levels, then you would want to watch and this customizing and see what are some possibilities. And then I can always, again, help you with that. Sizing up self-surveys is going to help you with every single one of the self-surveys is discussed here and whether or not is available in junior or the other versions. So that would be a good one to go through, and it'll have the new screenshots of the self-surveys. It will also have the new screenshots of any of the results pages. And these used to be called assessments. We're calling them self-surveys now. So just to put that together for you. Then this one, personalized reporting student PLCPs. Back when we were looking at that My Dashboard page, and I talked about students reporting out to you, here is how students will be able to report out to you and what kinds of things they can report out to you. Not just us pulling information and shoving it at our students and hoping that they grab a hold of it and do something with it, but asking pointed questions of our students, asking for particular things that they've done, gives them the accountability that, oh, I needed to add something to that, or I didn't complete that yet. I need to do that before I submit. And it helps them become those self-advocates, learning to ask for what they need while they're still under that safety net working with us. And the Show Me the Money, that's going to be our scholarships and financial aid. So you want to dive into the schools and education tab and the scholarships and the new filters that are out there as well. If you're wanting to request training for your audience, specific to your audience, here's some suggestions. But anything that you would like me to dive in with your particular group, your team, your classroom, we can do that. But here's some suggestions because sometimes you might not know what you want to ask for. And so you can find those under available training topics on the ACPE training page, or the AKCIS training page, I'm sorry. Any questions? They haven't been hit in the chat box there, Dominica.
Thank you, Julia. No, I don't see any questions in the chat box just yet.
I want to go back and put my contact information up for the end of the presentation real quick. And there is my contact information. Again, if you do have questions after this session, when you're watching this on recording later, thank you so much for coming back and revisiting. And just contact me. Let me know. Send me an email. Zap me a phone call, and we will get you all straightened out. Get you helped. Thanks everybody for joining us this morning. Thank you for the nice comments in the chat. I appreciate those. Dominique, are we going to be ready for a break? Do we have a speaker coming in right after this?
At 11:10. Not
Um,
just yet.
does anybody have any questions? I mean, I'm still here. If you want to talk about something, if you want to say, hey, I've used AKCIS like this, or you can let us know. We could take you off of mute if you wanted to, or you could put something in the chat, some ideas, or we do have some school districts who are using AKCIS as a required course. And so each year they've got specific artifacts and deliverables built into their career plans. And we have some that have a year's career plan all to themselves that they go through each year. Can you show us the workforce development for job seekers and adults again? Yeah, I can actually log straight in. If I type my password correctly. So this is I'm logged in at the moment. You can see my screen there. This is the adult workforce version. And so what we see, this is kind of a muted kind of page. If I come back just a little bit, if I make my page a little bit smaller, you can see that the activities show up automatically. But I wanted to make it a little bit bigger so you could kind of see what's happening on my page. If I hover over the list of activities, the icons, then the activities will pop out. We can see in green the activities that are completed, in orange an activity that they started, but they haven't finished all of the answers. So here's some answers are in here on this particular activity. Each activity has got an export PDF. This is even in the high school and junior version, has an export PDF. So if you wanted this page or the informational interview page or any kind of page of an activity, you could ask that user to export PDF and send that on to you. The user can either use up here in this red pancakes button up here, they can either use the drop down to change their plan that they're looking at, or they can use the cards that are down below. So the first plan that comes up is Discover, and that's what we're on at the moment is Discover. Then we've got Explore, which has got 12 activities on it, which include things like working conditions and looking at schools and financial aid. And then we have Prepare. And so now we've got activities that are going to go around job shadowing and informational interviews and facing obstacles and getting ready, making sure that resume is good to go. And then we've got Seek, which is so much shorter. It's, hey, here's look at some of the careers and let's go find some Alaska jobs. And so each adult user, it has a different reason they're coming in to AKCIS, right? The different reason they're looking at a personal learning and career plan. Some need to get straight to work. Some need to really dive in there. They're like, I want to do something different. I don't know what it's going to be. So they need to go all the way back to that Explore and then and discover what is out there and then start digging and exploring their options. Some are just like, I'm having trouble getting into a company. I'm having trouble getting into this particular network of people working in careers, and they need help with that Prepare. Now, as a partnership with WIOA, we did create a quick plan because the caseloads shift quite quickly under WIOA. the Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act, changes quite frequently, those users do. And so we said, what is the bare minimum activities that they need to look at? And we gave them a couple of self-surveys. We gave them the careers and military careers to consider. We came down here, thought about their budget, and what their workplace values are, and who's in their network. A lot of people forget who's in their network. Um, if they just start talking in the state of Alaska is a very small village. If you have not gone somewhere and run into somebody that you know from a completely different part of Alaska, um, you need to open your eyes when you're in those environments because there's probably somebody from another part that you know right next to you. And then getting into that finding jobs, so that bare minimum to say that we've took that holistic approach to their job search and helped them out. So um, then on my dashboard, of course, it wants to think longer because we're transmitting and recording at the same time. So it wants to play with me. On their favorites, this is that dashboard across the top, and these are hyperlinks. So it would take us straight away to these particular categories. They can also go in under a category with this little pencil, and they can make any notes that they want to on any of the things that any of the careers or activities they've saved. Is there anything special for special ed high school graduates or special needs students? I do have a transitions checklist added into the added into the high school site type. And I ran that through the special education conference a number of years ago. And so I do have a career plan under transitions. It does not have any special education language in it, but they did love it. Those teachers who attended the conference absolutely loved it. I said, what should we name it? They said, do not name it SPED. And so we didn't. They named it transitions. So it works very nicely with our special education students, also works very nicely with any group of students that maybe they waited till fourth quarter of their senior year to start doing anything in AKCIS. It also helps a lot for them. On the self-surveys, the one that's really stands out for special needs would be that career cluster inventory quick pick. And so this is an example of it. Here's that megaphone next to the instructions. We'll read to them next to the activity. And here's that picture of someone doing that activity, and they would mark how much they like or don't like it. They can come across here. They're going to see the progress bar change as they change up, as they move along. If you started to see that frustration level, maybe you've got an English language learner, somebody with a little bit lower reading level, and you see that frustration really starting to come up, they can save and they can restore back from my dashboard. They can restore their results the next time because we don't really want to get them all flustered. We want them to be able to come in and work really well in the system, right? The work importance locator has been upgraded. This used to be something that you had a bunch of cutout papers and they tried to put that all together. Well, the programmers have figured out how to put the analytics to all of this together at the same time. And so they're coming along and they're saying, on my ideal job, it's important that, and they've got 5 categories that they've got to mark, and that'll come up and give them their workplace values. Question just popped into the chat. For those who want to move away to find a job, is there housing information available in order to keep a job? A person moving into the city needs to know about housing prices and apartments. Whoops, I didn't want to go to my dashboard, but I want to go self-surveys. And I want to look at the reality check. In the reality check, like I said, we've got 17 hubs around the state of Alaska. And we have got, I'm just going to use Anchorage because I happen to be sitting there at the moment. And I'm going to go next. We've got our different categories of expenses across the top. And you asked first about housing. So what happens every year, these expenses are updated. And these expenses come to us from a national average. We bump that national average up to the cost of living in Anchorage. And then we consider if we had a state of Alaska employee living in any of those hubs, what would the cost of living increase be for that state of Alaska employee in those hubs. And so we bump it up. So while in Anchorage, I might not be able to find a particular one bedroom apartment for $1,095 right now. That's going to be roundabout. That's as close as we can get because it's very difficult for those 17 locations to be surveyed every single year and get the averages on all of these expense types across the top. One that I want to draw your attention to here is transportation. And if we were, say, in Utqiagvik, might be a little bit difficult to get some of these pieces. I was just recently traveling through Bethel a couple of times over the last month, and public transportation is not necessarily available there. Instead, it would be more like the taxi services. So being able to see what would be available. Now, what I hear from in the past, what I've heard from rural students and teachers is, where's my boat, snow machine, four-wheeler, and airplane? Well, this is a national self-survey, and in the rest of the nation, those are toys, and in Alaska, those are necessities. So instead of confusing every single user in the rest of the nation, we added this enter your own value box with the idea that it's not necessarily going to be a car that we're looking at. We might have a snow machine or something else, and so we can enter our own values. And because we did that, we were able to go ahead and enter your own value on each of these boxes, each of these categories, which makes it really nice for the adult user who already knows what their bills are, and they could enter that value in there as well. The family expenses now have been added in. So this is a difference in the reality check from the past. They used to be an afterthought. This is how much it would be, and then the user had to split those expenses up between 7 categories. And now those expenses are put right into the formula, right into the calculation. So if I wanted to restore a set of results, I'm on the dashboard self-survey, and I go down to my reality check results, and I click there and I say that I want to restore the answer set that had Anchorage with a certificate program, and my 3 clusters were health, health careers, um, human services, and travel and tourism. Then here is what my reality check results look like now. I've got my pie chart, and I can hover over it and it tells me what the expense was. I've got my budget over here with our annual expenses. And then when we add in our federal taxes, what's that amount going to be? I can change where I want this to be from, which one of the 17 hubs I want to be in from this page without going back to the first page. I can hyperlink jump into any of these pieces and make a change to kind of edit what would that lifestyle look like for me. Because sometimes students are confused. Don't tell me I don't live in a house. I live in a house. And you're like, but you already know you live in a house when you finished post-secondary education. And it takes them a little bit for them to go, oh, I don't have a lifestyle. My family has a lifestyle. I'm going to be setting one up for myself. Other students will be like, you mean my parents look at this like all the time, every month? Why don't they talk to me about this stuff? And then they can get to their custom careers list and they can make choices. So their wages are a little bit more on the higher end. Again, they can change their location or the clusters they're interested in, and they can search either by cluster, which then separates this up into 2 accordions, and they can expand just the accordion that they want to look at that particular time, or they can go by title and look at all of the titles alphabetically. They can favorite it from here. They can sort by any of the headers. They can also compare, if we wanted to say a dental hygienist and a dentist, we could put them next to each other, and they can compare their apples to their oranges, and they can look at their overviews. They can look at their job tasks and their employment outlook and even their wages. Now, if we're not comparing, if I go back to careers and I want to look at a career page, I'm just going to go to accountants because it's easy to get to quickly. When we're on the wages page, not only can we see our Alaska average and our breakdown compared to the United States, but if a student were to pick another state, and I'm just going to pick California because it's close and students pick it often, and I apply, We used to only be able to see the state average for those other states, and now we can see the economic breakdown areas of those other states because Reading is much different than LA, right? Again, it wants to slow up because we are sharing a screen and recording at the same time. Okay, well, I don't want to take your time up looking for that. So anyway, imagine imagine that it decided to do that for us. Neat thing at the bottom of the wages and the employment and outlook page is the top 5 states with the highest wage will be along the bottom, or the top 5 states with the highest employment outlook over the next 10 years would be down at the bottom. So it's kind of neat when we find one that's Alaska pops up down at the bottom. We've got our videos. The videos are all new. Um, and every time Career One Stop gets a new video, those videos are popping in to our system here. And that makes me think about, I have had some users talking about ONET recently, and CIS was the original career information system, and it was founded off of ONET. ONET's written more for an analyst to read, and our teachers, our counselors are moving so quickly, they're not necessarily ready in front of the class to be reading analyst type work. Our students and families are not ready to read that analyst type work. So we bring it into AKCIS. We make it so we can save. You can't save on ONET. We made it so you can save, so you can come back to your results from your self-surveys and use those to continue your progression through. And we use it to, in order to use AKCIS, because once a user gets used to finding a piece of information in a certain place, it's always going to be in that place. ONET is a great resource if you want to go out and get some other specifics and really get the dialed down information. You can get that from there. But it is, it's pretty neat to be able to get to this information and get both the in-state and the national information at the same time. This also, with the new version with the accordions, doesn't have an entire page loading all at the same time. And so the user can open up just the pieces that they want to look like at any particular time. I did want to show you that it used to be that if a certain school updated themselves in a certain state, that we couldn't see that in Alaska, and only our Alaska schools could update in Alaska. But now, if I come down, we can see all of the updates. This is Rutgers and Camden. We can see each of their updates for their schools and their videos as well. So something to look forward to. Also the new filters. So some of you might be missing the school sort or the financial aid sort. And so we have a more robust filter system now. And so students can come in and they can look just at the ones they favorited, missions difficulty, what type of school they are, what their program of study choices might be, so they can go through and make choices in this list and select. What their housing, financial aid, what locations, so they can pick different states, and what kind of school setting or school size they might have. And so then they could look at just that list instead of the 5,000 schools and training facilities, right? And a brand new section. This has only been out a couple months. And actually, when I presented last week, a brand new video popped in. So prepare, I already knew that was there. It's an awesome 5.5-minute, really well put together video that you can show your students and job seekers on getting prepared for interviews. But the brand new one that came out is practice. And so that is a new one to check out. It talks about their strengths and their weaknesses, moving those weaknesses into that positive light, right? So those are videos that you could go back and have your students watch, give them as an assignment. But yes, we do have several employment opportunities on here as well. Does the AKCIS website also provide information on jobs that provide training or services for training for their employees? I'm thinking there's probably more that you wanted to ask in that question, and it probably got swept up in trying to make it more concise. Noelle, would you like to come off mute and ask me? If you want to come off mute, it's giving you the option if you want to come off and ask me that. Do you mean like entry level jobs? I do have some companies who use AKCIS, the adult version, to help with their succession planning. If that is getting close to what you're talking about there. Jobs that provide training services for the training. If I'm on a career, okay, that's fine. OJT training. When let me so if I want to part salespeople, just as an example, because it's the fastest thing I could think of, under their education and training on that career, under the preparation accordion, it talks about how long they would go to school and that they would do on the job training. Does that get kind of close to what you're asking? And then describes on the job training. So that happens on each career too. That's a good question. I like it. Here's that helpful high school courses that I mentioned earlier. So the student can start asking for those courses, making plans. Maybe they know they want to go to school and they have to have chemistry completed before they graduate. And so that maybe your school only offers chemistry every other year. So that student puts that into their course plan and has to work backwards towards it. Here's that personal qualities page under that career. This is that user's results in the interest profiler and how people working in that field score on the interest profiler. And here's that user's results on the work importance locator and how they score, how those people working in that field score on the work importance locator. Yeah. I think that might do it, Dominica, unless anybody has any questions. I've been liking the questions in the chat so far. All right, let me put my contact information back up on the screen one more time. It really likes it when you stop sharing and then try to do these things and then share again. Sorry for the delay there, everybody. FYI to anyone speaking later in any of the sessions, stop sharing, change your screen, and then share again.
Thank you, Julia, for this suggestion.
Thanks to everybody who joined us today. I appreciate that. I look forward to working with you this school year. I know I call it a school year. That's kind of how we move at ACPE is through the school year, but we do run AKCIS year long. And so, let us know whenever something's coming up, something's happening, if you'd like some specific training or to meet with me to ask any of your particular questions too. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Miss Julia.